Well, hello, Denton. This is Jake Laughlin bringing you another episode of Discover Denton. This week we have Kim Phillips of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as Herbert Hall with UNT on the Square. So here is Discover Denton.
Hello, Denton, and welcome to Discover Denton on DentonRadio.com. I'm Kim Phillips coming to you from the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in downtown. And today we've got Herbert Hall here as our guest. Herbert, tell us, Herbert, what is your official title over at UNT on the Square?
Well, my official title at University of North Texas is Director of the Institute for the Advancement of the Arts and UNT on the Square, which is quite a mouthful. But
that really is.
It's fine for people to just think of us at UNT on the Square. And so I'm the director there and in charge of programming and things attendant to that.
Good. And I wanted Herbert here today, first of all, so that you all can meet him over the air and then go over to UNT on the Square and check it out if you haven't already. It's one of the greatest attractions that we have right on the square, and it adds the whole artistic element to the square. So we're very proud of it. And in fact, Herbert just had a grand opening of a brand new exhibit this past Friday. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the new show?
I'd be happy to. This was a good example also of the collaborative programming we try to do at UNT on the Square, that is involving other elements of the community. It's a photographic exhibition, and it's very literally titled. It's called Photographs of Denton, and that's exactly what it is. The genesis of the show was that our member of the photography faculty, Pahoman, approached me about a year ago and said that the city would be doing an update to its historical resources inventory, and specifically with an emphasis on the middle of town neighborhoods between Carroll and Texas Woman University, for those of you who know the community. And it was to document structures built between 1940 and 1965, 45 and 65, post-World War II structures. And so 5 or 6 photography students at the University of North Texas participated in this program, and the result was actually kind of their own takes, or their own. The survey was a departure for their own interpretations of the community and so forth. Some of them went beyond the boundaries of this. But to cut to the chase, it's an exhibition of photography, black and white and color, of structures in the Denton downtown area. In some cases, it's more documentary. Sometimes it's more interpretive. Maybe it's because of a certain architectural feature or angle. There's one section that has photographs of pieces by the noted Denton architect O'Neill Ford, of course, and then even interiors of homes. They spread out to what the locals call Idiot's Hill, the Crestview edition. And even
I love that neighborhood, by the way.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And photographed homes and interviewed people who had been living since those homes were built, and those were vintage.
Wow.
Say,
so are we talking like hundreds of photographs, or 10, or?
Well, in this show, it's interesting. There is one wall panel that actually has 264 photographs, but they're each about the size of a postcard. So if I go by that, there's several hundred photographs, but there's probably about, I'd say about between 30 and 45 large-scale pieces. Of course, the exhibition is free, and it really shows off. It shows off the ability of our students, of course, but it is also just a nice. It's just a nice look at our community from a different perspective.
You mentioned that it's free. Is it always free?
So far, yes.
Yeah, good.
UNT on the Square is open to the public, 6 days a week, and all of our exhibitions are free of charge. We also, of course, have musical programs and lectures and other things. And in most cases, unless it's a private event, they are free of charge.
Good. So, hey, people listening out there, if you're looking for a cool date night, add a little culture to it when you come downtown and check out UNT on the Square.
Right.
Are the exhibits at UNT on the Square always related to University of North Texas artists, or?
They're related to UNT in some fashion, as you might expect. But it could be anything. It might be students, it might be faculty, it might be alums, it might be invited guests. In some cases, some element of some department or college maybe has even, we've had touring exhibitions, we've had a variety of sources, but there's generally some university tie-in.
Okay. But it's always different from, for instance, whatever's going on over at Oxide Gallery or Center for Visual Arts,
Right.
one of their galleries. It's just yet another added place.
Exactly. As you well know, downtown, there was a time 20 years ago when you went downtown because there was a specific place you were going to go. And now you go downtown and you get here and you decide, well, what will we do?
Yeah.
And so I think in that way, UNT on the Square contributes. It's part of that menu of options that people have. It's another attraction. And that really was one of the motivations on the university's part for getting it down there, to be in some way a factor in economic development,
Yeah,
if you will.
and it really has worked.
Yeah.
I love it because downtown really has become, like you said, not just a place to go do the one thing you need to go do, but a place to go and have an experience.
Right.
It's really wonderful. Well, let's rewind a few years and take us back to when UNT on the Square actually opened. I mean, how did it come about?
Right. Well, as it turns out, this exhibition we've just been talking about, Photographs of Denton, starts off our 5th year. I don't know where that time has gone, but we are starting our 5th year. UNT on the Square and also the Institute were founded by the previous administration. And I think the reason behind it was to make a strong statement about the creative arts at the University of North Texas, about sharing them, about raising the profile, and being a resource to the community. And in the discussions that led, the initial discussions were really about the Institute for the Advancement of the Arts, which is more of an in-house thing, if you will. I mean, I'll talk about it if you like, but I think our focus today is really the building.
Yes.
But as they being the steering committee that helped form it, as they were looking around and casting about, well, where will we put this institute? Someone suggested, well, we should just put it right on the downtown square. And that person later told me, he said that half seriously and half just to say it, and it stuck. And everybody said, what a great idea.
It is a great idea.
I mean, I can call it wasn't, I wish it had been my idea. I can't take credit for the idea, so I can praise it, of course. And then with the help of people like Julie Glover with
Downtown development.
Right. A location was found and deals were made and so forth and so on. We leased the space. We don't own it. And it began. But I think really, I think of UNT on the Square as serving 2 primary functions. One, it's kind of a portal, if you wish. It's an entryway for the community to enjoy and to benefit from both the performance and the creative research that's being done at the University of North Texas. And for the university, it's a conduit to put programs out in the community, because what students and faculty are getting there is an audience that's much broader and wider than what's on campus. And that's not because they're not doing a good job on campus. It's just, well, for one thing, you can park in front of our place.
Yeah.
You get it's a different mission. Yeah.
It really adds to the product that we talk about here at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. When we go out and talk about Denton, trying to attract people here, I mean, having UNT on the Square is a perfect complement to our Denton original independent brand, which really embraces the whole collective, creative, intelligent pool that we have here, a lot of which is due to the wealth of student input that we have in our community.
Right. Well, this, with 2 major universities, this town really is rich in creative talents.
It
I mean,
is.
creative across the board. Obviously, we're talking about the arts today primarily, but creative, whether it's in sciences or in business or whatever, we have this
research,
wonderful
music,
resources here. And to your point about out-of-town visitors, I mean, we do informal surveys like most places that have guests. We have a guest book and we look at the zip codes and so forth. But just anecdotally, I can tell you we have a lot of people from out of town visiting it, and to me that's kind of an indicator of what's, if it's a small sampling of what's going on community wide.
It is, and being right there on the square, it's just it's a no-brainer. And I know as far as our numbers go, we've seen a 31% increase in tourism traffic here in Denton over this past year. And I'm sure that y'all are a recipient of that, especially being on the square, because that's such an iconic place that we talk about when we talk about Denton.
Right.
So, but now when UNT opened on the square, you came in with UNT on the square, but that was definitely not your first
Yes, I'm a longtime Denton person, and we came here on the professional 5-year plan. I was hired to be the director of the Greater Denton Arts Council many years ago, and 5 years later I decided it was time to make a career move, and that lasted about 18 months when we realized how desperately we missed Denton. So as fate would have it, I was hired back at my original position at the Greater Denton Arts Council, where I spent an additional 10 years. I spent some time at TW also as the arts coordinator there, and now at the University of North Texas for 5 years. So I've really, I've looked at life from both sides now, as Judy Collins once sang. But no, I've my focus has always been community arts, but I've seen it both from the perspective of the university and from the perspective of the community. And I dare say that, this town gown disconnect that some communities talk and feel about, I think is not prevalent or hardly even discernible in this community. I think just when you go downtown on a Friday night, you see us old guys, you see students, you see everything, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of what I get to do, is the fact that I will have 5-year-olds in there running around, or we'll have and their grandparents with them, and we'll have people from recently somebody from Thailand popped in,
I love that.
And so we get a real cross section of life, and I think that's what really recommends our whole downtown area. There's a place for everyone.
Yeah.
There's a place for everyone.
And your story is not a unique one. So many people do end up coming back because Denton is really special, and we realize it. Sometimes it takes getting away to realize what you had.
Right.
And people end up coming back. And as far as that creative pool we were talking about, a lot of that is professors. It is people that were educated here, went away, and have come back now because of the culture that was here during their education. And I think we hear that story over and over and over again, and I love that.
Well, and it gives us a personality, not to disparage any of our other neighboring communities, but Denton, just because the universities and because government and other things very much drive our economy, we have a slightly different demographic. I think we have a more informal way of living here. We're not
informal, but also much more engaged.
Yeah, much more engaged.
Yeah.
You're right. We don't have a beach. We don't have a mountain range. We just have really, really interesting people.
Yeah, and people love it when they come here.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Herbert is also an artist in another realm. He is a concert pianist, and I've heard him play. He's amazing. So he definitely gets art from myriad perspectives in Denton, and we love having him here in our city. Now, tell us the name of the exhibit that's
Photographs of Denton.
Photographs of Denton.
UNT on the Square. For those who may not know where we are, I think the name should be a clue, but to locate it even more precisely, we're on the west side of the square, 109 North Elm.
Right beside Cartwright's, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And we are open daily from 9 to noon and 1 to 5. And then Thursdays, we're open until 8. And I'd like to put in a plug for something else. Every Thursday night in September and October, if you come by between 7 and 9, we have Thursday night music, which is a whole eclectic mix of jazz, classical, world
live
music, live.
Cool.
It's a come and go kind of informal setting, no admission charge. Come sit for a while, leave if you think you can, but most people stay because the music's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's a 7 o'clock set, and then there's an 8 o'clock set. And so during those months, the gallery's actually open until 9 because of the concerts. But year-round, it's open when there's a show up, which is about 290 days out of the year.
I was going to ask you about that. So.
It's open Thursdays till 8. And then on Saturdays, we're open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., which coincides with the Denton Museum, Denton County Museum on the Square hours. So you're welcome to come by there. And you never know what's happened. We have students come by and just jam. So and we change exhibitions monthly, sometimes more frequently than that. So you'll always find something else, something new when you come here. And certainly, if I may give us a plug, untonthesquare.unt.edu or Facebook or Twitter. So many ways to find us.
Yeah, and that's great. The fact that it's always changing makes the reason to keep coming back. So, Herbert, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
I know our listeners out there are excited to know what's going on at UNT on the Square, and to, if they haven't realized already, to realize that it's right there within walking distance of all the great live music that particularly our listeners love to know about. And this is just a great ad right there on that footpath. So thanks for being here today. And thank you out there in DentonRadio.com land for joining us on Discover Denton Radio again this week. See you next time.
There you have it. That was this week's episode of Discover Denton. A big thanks to Kim Phillips of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Another big thanks to Herbert Hall. A huge thanks to Gravity Feed for providing the intro and outro music. I'm Jake Laughlin, your host. Join us next week where we will be bringing you more highlights of our original and independent city. And in the meantime, go enjoy Denton.